What's going on, guys? Vinny here with Monsoon Tactical. I want to apologize first of all for the hiatus from YouTube, but you beautiful people have been keeping me away trying to get all this work done for you, so it is what it is. Blame yourself. Anyway, guys, we're here today with the long-awaited Staccato P4 HD review. You're not going to want to miss it. Let's get into it. Okay, so the Staccato P4, at this time, I'm sure there are a bajillion reviews out by now. It took me a little bit to get here because I wanted to spend some time with the gun before I gave you my thoughts. The one thing on this channel that I will 100% say I'm going to do is get some time behind things before I give you my opinions and or voice on it, all right? There were a lot of people, ran right out, got it, put a review up as soon as possible. I get that's kind of the thing to do, especially for views and stuff like that. However, I don't think that's enough time to really give some good, honest feedback and opinions on a platform. You're gonna get your initial thoughts, that's good, but there is something to be said about information gathered over a little bit of time, okay? I feel like at this point I have enough time behind this gun to give you my thoughts and information on it, all right? So obviously start out, this gun is not stock, okay? We have some work done to it, as you can see here. We'll get into that more a little bit later down the video, but I did shoot this gun stock before we played with it. Obviously here at Monsoon Tactical, we had to figure out some things to make some modifications work with this because you guys were automatically asking, hey, what are you gonna be doing for the P4 and the P4.5? So the P4 automatically had to go out, get one. Thank you to the guys at Uncoiled Firearms that hooked us up with this P4 up in Michigan. Definitely check them out. That's where we got this P4 from. So we got it, did some things to it, had to figure out the math and all the stuff. But again, we'll get into those mods a little bit later. So I'm gonna give you my review process on this thing, and you know, here's the deal, okay? The Staccato P4 is a huge departure from its original counterpart, and I'm gonna call or coin the legacy guns for this video. What's a legacy gun, you might ask? Basically, it's a regular Staccato. I have a Staccato P Heritage, which is the 4.15-inch Staccato variant, okay? And we're gonna kind of compare the P4 to this gun because they're very similar in size, and there's just a lot of different things going on here. And I'm gonna be able to use this gun and coin it the legacy gun because this is what we all know and love. And this gun is a complete departure from this gun. So I kind of want to also back up a little bit and give you my thought process on why they made this gun, right? Why would Staccato completely depart from what they're known for, what they built their name on from the gun that was, you know, the inception of the gun from the 90s, okay? This gun, in my opinion, was engineered and specifically targeting the LEO contract world, okay? The civilian sector was just kind of a byproduct and double dipping at that point. That's my thought process. That's what I think this gun is for, because there's a lot of stuff on here nobody asked for, okay? But there's a lot of stuff on here that LEO did, okay? Drop safe, iron sights, you know, optic mounting solutions, and obviously the biggest thing a lot of people know by now, Glock magazines. Glock magazines are everywhere in the LEO world. There's a good podcast with Iron Sight Podcast and the new CEO at Staccato talking about this gun in depth and how they kind of arrived to the solution here. A lot of the innovation and things that culminated into this gun as a whole, he talks about, right? The sights kind of come from the aftermarket world. The recoil system, he says they kind of stole from HK. The grip angle, funny enough, they said that they kind of got from Zev as far as them making a Glock mag work with a 1911 grip angle. Ambi controls, direct mounting, all that stuff. Series 80 style trigger. We're gonna get all of that here in a second. But again, I think, you know, with the drop safety, all the other stuff, they really wanted the LEO market to go after this gun. And we as civilians or regular people were just a byproduct to buy it, right? Obviously, you know, that's probably the biggest market for them right now. Maybe, I don't know, but I really think the LEO market is what they were going after when they made this gun. So to kind of get into the feature sets of this gun, again, there's a lot of reviews out there. I'm just gonna kind of go over them briefly and talk to you about what I think is going on here. And, you know, the first thing, the iron sights. Let's start up top. They put an irons forward. It's pretty much standard. There's no other option for it. I like this, and I don't hate it, but at the same time, I know a lot of people that don't like this. And a lot of people say this is for like deflecting gas and things like that. It can do that, but I don't think that's 100% its function. If you shoot this gun enough, it's still going to cloud up with gas and junk and gunk. I shot this gun a lot, and the glass got dirty regardless of this little rear sight in front, okay? However, this can help with manipulation off of barricades and stuff like that. But primarily, I think for me, when I think about this setup, because we do it all the time here, my primary aiming device is back here. I'm looking through the glass, and I have the iron sights there if I need them. So if you look through a gun like this, it's just a little bit cleaner, easier on the eyes, and you know, I like it, okay? The optic mounting system. Everyone's like, you know, that's not direct mounted, you know, air quotes, direct mounted optic system, okay? I'm gonna first say that I really wish the gun came with plates from the factory. Any industry standard plate should be coming with this thing, or other RMR, SRO, RMR HD, or like Acro. I think those 3 plates would be more than welcomed from the factory. And if you want any weird optic mounting plates, then yeah, sure, go buy them, make your money. But for the price point, it should have came with plates. Staccato, sorry, that's how I feel. But again, direct mounted. We do have interface plates here that have to, you know, tailor the optic to the slide. So some people are like, well, it's got a plate, so it's not direct mounted. It's kind of true. However, the screws are going through the optic, through the plate, into the slide directly, and the plate's just kind of acting as a median in between to make sure that the optic footprint is supported on the slide. So yeah, it's not direct mounted in that sense, but it is because we do have screws going directly into the slide. So I would say it's kind of a hybrid, right? From there, moving back, no grip safety anymore, guys. So we got rid of the grip safety. This in turn made the bore axis a little bit lower in the hand, and we're gonna talk about this a little bit now. There's been some reports of hot spotting in this area because of this different change here. We're gonna go over that a little bit in front of the camera with a micrometer and kind of go over some of the dimensions and why I think this is happening. So I kind of wanted to go over some of the things that a lot of people have not been talking about on the P4 platform for Staccato, and that's the significant change in dimension, right? So the entire gun itself is well over an inch in comparison to like its counterparts or the legacy guns that I keep talking about and the traditional 2011s that we know and love, right? So obviously the P4 here, it's over an inch in some areas in comparison to the other guns that are under an inch, right? And a lot of people are getting pinched up or feeling a lot of hot spotting in this area right here, okay? And I think a lot of that has to do with the design of the grip safety no longer being usable and just being a tang. So a couple things are happening with the traditional guns. We have more material back here pushing our hand away, and then the, you know, the memory bump and stuff doing that as well. But also in this area, it's a lot thicker, and when the safety's down, we're coming to like this very hot spot here with the safety. You know, like you can kind of drag your finger across that and hit it, and the ledge where this part is. So if you look at a more traditional gun, okay, you can see back in this area that I'm talking about, one, the grip safety has more material kind of pushing your hand away, and this section here isn't as pronounced and extremely different in dimension. So I'm gonna crack out a pair of calipers, kind of show you in person what's going on here, okay? So there's 2 spots that we can measure, this outer portion and this inner portion. And this inner portion is kind of where the meat of our hands are falling into and preventing us to having any real hot spotting in this area, as well as, again, this pushing our hand away when we were gripping it. So at its width, at the first point, you know, we're sitting at about 1.097 inches, all right? At the other point, we are at 7.68, so under an inch, okay? So like I said, when we're gripping this, our hand isn't really getting any hot spotting in this area. And when the safety's down, we can't really feel that safety because it's blended so well with this surface. Now we go back to the P4, and like I said, this area is all one solid piece and it's rounded. I understand what they're trying to do here, but I think this is where a lot of people are encountering some issues. So at its widest point that we can measure, okay, we're sitting at 1.208. So a pretty significant difference in width there. And again, a lot of it I think has to do too with it being completely round across, and with the safety down, we kind of have this edge there. And when you are shooting it, you know, that's kind of driving into the webbing of your hand. I have some meaty,
thick, meaty Good shot.
Meaty. Pause. Okay, so I don't really have short fingers, believe it or not. My fingers are like the same length as a lot of people, but I got that girth in the back, so it kind of puts guns a little bit further up my fingers, okay? But I have a lot of cushion for the pushing, and I don't really experience the hot spotting too much. I did feel it, but not enough for me to be like, ooh, I don't like that. So it's definitely something a lot of people are complaining about, not something that I'm experiencing to a level of uncomfortability. And the safeties too, being a little bit wider, people are inadvertently bumping that. So if you have a thumbs down grip under the safety and you go to make your grip, like, you can absolutely do that. Taylor was able to get it to kind of go by squeezing it, and I can kind of see how that works. Our buddy QVO, Roger at QVO, was having it happen to him, as well as his buddy Marco. So something that's happening, but once I started to shoot this more, I encountered this a little bit, and I think it was more with my support hand being, again, meaty, pumping into that and hitting it up, causing like this pseudo hammer fire thing, but that's not what was happening. I was just kind of hitting this and pulling the trigger at the same time, and it was catching it. The sear was catching it as the safety was going up. So once I started to shoot this more, I didn't run into that. So I just wanted to point out how different dimensionally this gun is and width that's causing some of this hot spotting and different location and orientation for the safeties. So as you can see there, definitely differences in dimension in comparison to the Legacy gun and the Staccato P4. And what I think is happening, like I said, we have a very pronounced lip here when the safety's down, next to this webbed area here that isn't really pronounced on the Legacy gun, right? So we're getting a little bit of hot spotting there. I, again, personally have not been feeling it too much. Got a little bit of a callus, but again, I got them thick, meaty paws. So a lot of that is absorbed into my hands and not really causing any issues. So we could probably blend this out and make it a little bit easier on the hands. Staccato is very perceptive with making changes and taking information from their customer base, so we'll see if they maybe fix that in the future. So since they got rid of this, we obviously don't need it anymore because the gun is now a Series 80 style gun. See here, we have a safety drop plunger here and all the accoutrement and mechanisms to make that work. So basically what that means, guys, is there's other stuff going on in here to make this gun drop safe. There is a plunger that blocks the firing pin from going unless the trigger is actually pulled, to then lift that out of the way so that the firing pin can hit the primer. Okay, so with that, normally a lot of people are worried about the Series 80 trigger, but I'm happy to report that it's pretty crispy and good to go. We take up very minimal, and then we have a pretty clean break. Okay, now Staccato uses all billet parts, so that's 100% why this trigger feels as good as it does in comparison to other Series 80 guns. But again, at speed, you're not really noticing any difference between this and the Series 70. So the Series 70 style gun obviously has a little bit lighter pre-travel and a very crisp break. I would say it is crisper on the Series 70, but again, at speed, not really noticing too much of a difference when we're actually running the trigger hard and using it in a practical scenario, right? Meaning I'm actually using this gun on USPSA style targets, whatever, grip sights, trigger, and I'm just kind of pulling the trigger as I see fit, not really prepping through and just feeling every minute change and difference in the triggers. At speed, you know, 15, 16, 12, 13 splits, not really noticing too big of a difference there. So again, we talked about this back half being a little bit different. That's because, again, the whole gun is thicker. It's over an inch thicker in some spots in comparison to the Legacy gun, which is normally under an inch, right, as you saw, but in that one spot, about an inch. But again, the gun's thicker overall, so that means it's heavier. In comparison to this gun is so much lighter. Obviously I have a light on here, but I did weigh these two. This gun was about 4 ounces heavier than the P Heritage, okay? This does have X-serrations and other work done, but you can feel a significant difference in weight and just girth in comparison. So the other cool thing that we got here, guys, ambi gun, right? Ambi slide controls, ambi thumb safeties, ambi changeable mag release. Nothing too crazy there. They did just bring all that ambi stuff to this gun, which is new, but again, not new. So nothing to really harp about there. I'm not changing too much of my manipulation pattern with the gun. I'm still going to come through with my support hand and drive the gun back out. I just don't think me keeping my grip compromised to reach this is worth it in the grand scheme of things. It's nice to have extended doodads and ambi doodads, but I'm so ingrained running these guns the way that I do that I'm not going to change too much. So again, once I kind of separated the fact that this was a gun that is completely different from the legacy guns, I started to enjoy it more, even more when I started to modify things, okay? We're kind of getting the modifications here a little bit more. So as you can see, on top, we have our Genghis comp. We did a little bit of a redesign on the Genghis comp for this gun. It has a SIG style dovetail, so we made it a little bit smaller, and honestly, it was a better choice. It just looks a lot more aggressive. And, you know, here's that dished out backboard and recrowned Genghis comp on here. This size Genghis comp on this particular gun is just awesome. It's lights out, it's accurate as hell, and you know, we're happy with the changes that we made and the data that we collected. And so this is how it's going to come if you decide to do a Genghis comp on the P4. Other modifications we did, mainly on the grip, okay, obviously stippling. Did like a two-tone look here with some Cerakote in the stippling. Did a magazine scallop. There's a little bit more material removed here so they can reach that better. A lot of people were complaining, like you can see on this side, how much material is there and how much of the magazine release is not sticking out. So you really have to press in to get it. So a little bit of a removal there allows me to really reach that and hit that button 100% of the time, every time. From there, we obviously did some contouring and reshaping on the trigger guard. The trigger guard is thick, it's like a Glock. So we have a nice little finger stop choil and some texturing, little undercut work and blending and beveling here, and it just really lets me lock into the gun. So we didn't do anything too crazy modification-wise on this one. Just really enjoying it. It's sometimes less is more. I started to shoot this thing in this configuration. I started to really like it. I started to really fall in love with it. And again, if this is something that you're looking into because it checks a lot of the feature sets that you like, it's a good gun. I would get it, okay? If I absolutely had to choose between this and a regular Staccato, I'm gonna pick the regular Staccato still. There's still something about it that just feels better to me. And again, segueing into it a little bit, I missed it, but the grip angle, okay? They say it's the same on paper. It does point like a 2011/1911, but it's still different, guys. I can't sit here and say it's identical. Something you can kind of really see is when you put these guns on their mag wells, one's gonna point up, one's gonna point down. It's just is what it is, guys. The magazine is shaped completely different. So does it point like a 2011? Yes. Does it feel like a regular 2011 in hand? No. I have both of these in hand. I can feel a slight difference in between these two guns. This one is thicker, but the angle is definitely a little bit straighter than this one. This has just a slight kick at the back, and I can feel that in my hand. But again, it points like a 2011 should. So what are the conclusions on the P4? Well, it's a good gun. It's very reliable. I didn't have any issues with it really myself. Once I started to really shoot it and get some time behind the gun, I started to like it, okay? Again, you know where I stand as far as picking one over the other. If you already have 2011s and Staccatos and you have money burning a hole in your pocket and you're an enthusiast, you might like this. You might be into it. It's different, it's new, it's funky. It's got a lot of cool things going for it. It feels significant. It feels different in the hands. That's all I'll say. If you're new and you're getting into the 2011 segment, I'm not sure this is a good first choice for you, okay? It's trying to do some specific things, and it might tarnish your view on a 2011 just because some things aren't the best. Again, this hot spotting back here is a problem for a lot of people. The trigger is very good, but not as good as it could be, and it's never gonna be as good as a Series 70. It just can't, okay? But overall, the Staccato P4, very well built gun, just not something I think someone would go out and buy first over, again, something like the original recipe. So again, sorry for taking so long to do this. Hopefully this video was helpful for you guys. If you stuck around, I really appreciate it. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share this with someone, and we'll see you on the next video, hopefully.